Spoilers may be about the place. In 1984, head of Full Moon Features Charles Band thought to himself that he wanted his own Blade Runner film, but for it to also involve time travel. And so, the Trancers series was born, starring Tim Thomerson as Trancer hunter Jack Deth and Helen Hunt as Lena. It was a surprise hit for Full Moon, so in 1991, Band decided to go at it again and brought back the entire original cast for Trancers 2, The Return of Jack Deth. It was another fun adventure that seemed to do well for the studio. And you know what they say, third time's the charm. So in 1992, Trancers 3, Death Lives was released. It lacked some of the charm of the first two, but again, it wasn't a bad B-movie, and Thomerson was on flying form. It would have been a good end for the Trancer series, but then Band clearly went and seen Army of Darkness, and just like with Blade Runner, he wanted one of his own. So Trancers 4, Jack of Swords was created, which seen our beloved Trancer hunter sent off to a medieval world filled with Trancers and magic. And it's here that our tale is going to come to an end, as when we last seen Jack Deth, he was still stranded in that world with no way home. Will Jack make it back home from this medieval world he finds himself in, or is he doomed to stay in this Army of Darkness ripoff? Well, let's wet the hair back, throw on our trench coats, and follow Jack Deth on his final adventure in Trancers 5, Sudden Death.
Tim Thomerson.
This is unrelenting terror. I can't wait for total panic.
Trancers 5, Sudden Death.
Our movie film begins with an incredibly long recap of the last film, and it is sexist as hell.
Where women do not know their place.
What the fuck? Not the best way to start off a film. Look lads, if you want a great recap of the last movie film, then check out my video. So the actual movie film begins with Jack Deth and the rebels attacking Castle Caliban.
Death is coming! Death is...
Aw shit yeah. Now that's how Jack Deth makes an entrance, by dusting some Trancers. Even our good lad Trancer Prospero is here, helping the rebels kill other Trancer lads. After killing all the Trancers in the courtyard, the team heads inside to find more lads to make dead. Inside the castle, Lucius is sneaking about the place and decides to just ruin this lovely painting of Caliban, but ends up getting killed by Shailene. But feck, it turned out it was just a nightmare Lucius was having. Oh wait, no, it actually did happen, and it turns out these Trancer lads got bushed, as they aren't looking too great. Back over in Castle Caliban, Jack and Lyra are having a domestic.
Don't start that. Don't start with that.
But Lyra won't stop, and Jack very aggressively tells her he wants her to live her own life.
God damn it, stop it! Just do what pleases you. Not me, you.
But she won't stop showering him with praise, and finally flatters him by saying how good he is at a spot of riding.
You are like a god.
I'm not like a god.
You are the greatest warrior who ever fought.
That's ridiculous.
Sexually, you're like a wild animal whom no living man can equal.
Well, yeah.
Prospero shows up looking like he's going to trance about the place, so Jack pulls his gun on him. But Prospero tells him to relax, Horsh, I think I know how to get you home. Well, it turns out Prospero just means that Deth has to look through all these books for the answer. Prospero, meanwhile, is getting all hot and bothered, and it's not because this one is just wearing what's basically a bra. He's growing weaker and weaker due to being a Trancer lad, so he needs to feed off someone's life force in order to survive. So Shailene here says to take a spot of hers, and he does that by getting the shift. Good man yourself. Jack, meanwhile, is having a spot of sleepy time.
Jack Deth. How are you doing?
Terrific, making tremendous progress.
He clearly hasn't a clue what's going on. But it turns out, by luck, Jack has found the exact book he needed that will explain how the hell he can get home. Back over with the Trancer lads, Lucius shows the others the sweet painting of Caliban he stole.
Why did you get that thing?
Because it's a class painting of Caliban, that's why. But the feckin' thing starts to glow. And Jesus, wouldn't you know, it's actually bringing Caliban back to life. And the first thing he does when alive and well is to be a total prick.
You pathetic bastards.
Prospero's Owlad senses start to tingle, but then he just brushes it off as if it's nothing. Also, where the hell is Jack getting all these cigarettes from? Surely he'd be out of them by now. Anyway, Prospero tells Jack in order to get home, he needs to get a jewel from a spot called the Heart of the Storm that will let him go anywhere in the multiverse. That is, if he can get past the test that awaits him in a spooky castle that's there.
But in order to get to the time, and you must first enter and survive
The castle of unrelenting terror.
But Jack thinks all of this sounds so stupid.
Castle of Unrelenting Terror? I thought Cahuenga was a stupid name.
And I thought Jack Deth was a stupid name.
Oh fuck, Jack will never recover from that insult. Jack goes to say good luck to everyone as he's heading off on his next adventure. But when he goes back to say goodbye to Lyra, she is mad for a spot of death. But instead of having a spot of riding with her, Jack gets all soft, telling her about the Lyra back in his world.
I told you about this other Lyra where I come from. She's so different from you, and in the brief time that I knew her, she made me crazy.
This is a good thing.
I didn't think so at the time, but I'm beginning to think that a woman isn't a real woman unless she makes you want to smack her in the chops. And not doing it makes you a real man.
Wait, what? What did he just say? Right. Anyway, at least he does tell Lyra to find out who she is on her own so she can finally be happy. And as Jack goes to leave, she gives him some weird advice.
To find what you treasure, reach deep into your heart.
Even though she doesn't seem to have a clue what that means herself. Outside, Jack meets his guide, who appears to be the lad from I Know What You Did Last Summer, and the two of them head off. But Jack's Trancer sense activates, and he quickly figures out that his guide is Prospero, and their uneasy alliance continues. Caliban, meanwhile, is telling the other Trancers that he knows damn well that Jack is going to try to get to that castle in order to get home, so he too decides to head off for the castle. That night, Prospero and Jack are starting to kind of get on when a woof shows up. Prospero, being the sound lad that he is, throws the doggy some food, but Jack had a different plan in mind.
I would have killed him.
Jesus Christ, they really want me to hate Jack in this film, don't they? The next day, they are ambushed by this crazy lad who causes their horses to flee. The two give chase, but Jack is old as fuck and out of shape, so falls behind.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
Which gives the crazy lad time to attack Prospero, and just when it looks like Prospero is dushed, that good boy from the other night comes to the rescue. And he just kills the lad. Jack the useless shite shows up and is like, who the fuck is that lad? Oh, what a good murder doggy. That night, Prospero and Jack are arguing again over if a Trancer can be a sound lad and if Jack actually has any real emotions. And Prospero tells him that he came with Jack so he doesn't end up accidentally killing his Bjor Shailene. Jack reluctantly then decides that this makes him a sound lad. The two still aren't quite friends yet, but Jack agrees to trust Prospero for now. Back at Castle Caliban, Lyra ends up meeting that wizard lad from Trancers 4, even though he was dusted in the last one. He tells her she has the gift of magic, and then he just feckin' vanishes. Remember when this used to just be a sci-fi series, and not this weird fantasy yoke? Yeah, can we go back to that please? Anyway, Lyra starts to draw some pictures, but forget about that, as we are back to Deth and Prospero, as they have arrived at the castle.
The castle of unrelenting terror.
Well, that looked underwhelming. The lads head inside and come across a room filled with women who all start dancing seductively towards them, and Jack likes what he sees.
If this is unrelenting terror, I can't wait for total panic.
And the lads are a pair of dopes and seem to just trust this group of dancing attractive women and start to get up to no good with them. They start shifting the face off all the women and having a great time all together with them. But when Prospero realizes he can see his reflection, Jack snaps out of it.
Wait a minute. Trancers don't reflect. You don't reflect.
Jack Deth, calm yourself.
There's no food here. God damn it.
While Jack tries to figure out what the hell is going on, Prospero just keeps shifting Bjors. But then this happens to Jack. Prospero, meanwhile, doesn't care and continues to eat the face off this one until Jack interrupts him.
Prospero.
Wait, what the hell did Jack even kill? We never see it. That was just weird. The lads wander into another room and this time come across zombies, so Jack introduces them to himself.
All right, listen up. Jack Deth, Angel City PD, year 2353.
I've had about enough of this psychodrama.
I want all you,
whatever the hell you are,
to suck floor now, now!
The odd thing is, these lads seem to do exactly as Jack says. Is that going to be explained at all? Probably not, so let's just move on. Back at the castle, Lyra is acting like a big shot wizard now, and seems to be drawing the future, and the rebels are trying to figure out what her drawings mean. But back over in the spooky castle, Jack and Prospero get affected by one of those things to warn off teenagers that shops have. Jack manages to block his ears in order to stay conscious, but of course Prospero gets knocked out. But it's only going to get worse, as this film is about to rip off Army of Darkness even more, as now there's an evil Jack Deth,
I'll take care of him after I take out the trash.
who can't be killed by Jack's fancy gun. So the two of them start to bush the face off each other, but evil Jack has the upper hand.
You're old, Jack. Old and tired.
I mean, he was old in the first one, so now he's kind of ancient. Jack gets up and tries to bush the head off himself again, but easily gets overpowered by evil Jack. But then he remembers what Lyra said,
To find what you treasure, reach deep in your heart.
which he decides means he has to punch a feckin' hole into evil Jack's body, which allows him to find the jewel. That was all a bit random. After waking up Prospero, the two of them go downstairs, and under a random picture of Mary and the baby Jesus, Jack tries to use the jewel. But then the Woof Woof shows up, and the two lads are just looking at it like, what the hell is he doing here? But fuck, that doggy was Caliban all along, who seems to just feckin' teleport. And then he just steals the stone and batters Jack. Caliban and Prospero have a super boring sword fight. Seriously, none of the sword fights in this are good at all. And of course, Prospero ends up getting bushed again. And why does this place have these random steel gates everywhere? Anyway, Caliban uses the jewel to open up a portal or something to gain the power of other Trancers. Seriously, this is getting even stupider as it goes on. He then teleports away and heads off back to the castle to get his revenge. Meanwhile, an eclipse is happening, and the rebels are like, well, I guess that means we are fucked. Back with Jack and Prospero, the two use Jack's super knife that can cut through anything to get free, and they head off on their horses to help the others. But on the way there, Prospero's prop sword just falls off his horse. It's not like he's going to feckin' need that during the fight that's coming. Jesus Christ, lads, ye could have reshot that. The castle gate gets blown up and Shailene gets stuck under rubble, and she tells the other lads to run. Caliban and his boys show up, and he thinks it's great crack altogether that Shailene is stuck, so he tells Lucius to have some fun dusting her.
Treat yourself. You are most gracious.
But before Louis can dust her, this lad whose name I do not know shows back up again and goes to kill Louis. But then he gets overpowered by Lucius, and Shailene has to watch as his life force starts to get drained. Well, he was kind of useless. Oh wait, maybe he wasn't. Oh my god, that was just embarrassingly bad. Seriously, that's how your second big bad ends up dushed, by just awkwardly falling onto a sword. Ah, Jesus Christ, lads. Prospero and Deth show up, and Prospero throws the clearly fake rubble off of Shailene. And then the two of them start to eye each other up like they want to have a spot of riding, and finally say I love you to each other. But Jack interrupts them and is like, would you come on to fuck? We need to batter your owl, lad. Leave the woman be. Inside, Caliban is fighting lads off as if he's Steven Seagal or one of those unreal martial arts masters. He's pretty confident in himself. That is until Lyra shoots him with an arrow and then Jack and Prospero show up. Caliban is like, for fuck's sake, how are ye back again? And Prospero wants to fight him again, but Caliban uses the force against him and knocks him out. Seriously, Prospero is absolutely useless in these two films. Caliban tries to talk Jack into a fair fight, but ends up being a cheating bastard and throws a poisoned dart into Jack. But as Jack is slowly dying, it allows Prospero to get up off his arse and cut the jewel from Caliban's neck, which drops right by Jack's hand. But Caliban just batters Prospero again. Seriously, this is like deja vu now. And then takes the jewel back off Jack and gloats about it right before being stabbed by Prospero in the gut. Which makes him #dushed. Jesus, that was worse than Louis' death. At least that was kind of funny. This was even lazier than Caliban's death in part 4. Jack gets the jewel again and tells it to bring him home.
Back to LA, you son of a bitch.
But fuck, Prospero gets caught on the jewel's beam too, and Shailene just can't feckin' believe it. Sweet Jesus Christ, why is she so bad? And then we find out Lyra is up the duff.
They're both gone. Not completely gone. Jack has left me something special.
We are back in the future now, and Harris goes to check on Deth, but himself and the Lyra of this world can't find the machine he sent Jack away in. But don't worry, as moments later Jack and Prospero just pop out of the chamber. But these two dopes don't even notice. And they start talking about how great Jack is.
She told me how tough, stubborn, how single-minded he was.
Yeah.
But that the sex was incredible.
Yeah? Oh. No, I'm really sorry I didn't give him a chance.
Well, Lyra is going to get her chance as Jack just walks up and kisses her, and then says he needs to get Prospero back home. But Prospero wants to stay there, as it turns out in this world he's no longer a Trancer. Jack decides to finally be a sound lad to Lyra and ends up getting the shift, cause as always, Deth is smooth as fuck, and the movie film is dushed. Well, we finally made it to the last Trancers film to star Jack Deth, so let's get into the positives for the film. I guess it's still a bit of crack to see Tim Thomerson in the role of Jack Deth, but he seemed way more up for it in part 4, as in this one he just really comes across as if he's on autopilot. And the character is still too much of a dick in this entry. A lot of sexist stuff is said. The sets and locations at least don't look too cheap, and it's consistent with part 4 as they were shot back to back, and the medieval setting is still a bit of fun. And it did have some really weird lines in it and stupid moments that made me laugh. But look lads, I'm really struggling to think of anything good to say about this film, so let's move on to the negatives. First off, why is there a recap at the start of this film? What lunatic is picking up Trancers 5 if they haven't seen the first 4? It's so odd to do and it goes on for so long. It's worse than a feckin' Friday the 13th recap. Now, I know I said the acting was bad in part 4, but it might even be worse in this one. Shailene is still a terrible actress and might outdo herself in this one, especially at the end. Also, why is Jack so sexist again? He wasn't like this in the first 3 films, besides maybe calling some women dizzy bitches. It just makes me not like the character. And also, they tried to get him to kill a doggy. That is not what heroes do. Also, I didn't point this out in the last review, but Jack always said dry hair is for squids. Yet, in this one and the last, he has dry hair. Come on lads, at least get that bit feckin' right. The story in this one is so paper thin it's mad. It feels like fuck all happens, and for a film that is only 70 minutes long, it sure has some padding in it, with very long establishing tracking shots and that scene where the crazy lad attacks Jack and Prospero. And the whole castle bit feels totally unfinished, like with the zombies just listening to Jack for some reason. Like what the hell was that even about? And the endgame of this film leads to Caliban coming back and getting the jewel off Jack to summon the power of more Trancers. But there is no payoff to Caliban getting the extra Trancer powers, or whatever the hell that was. It just goes nowhere besides him having force-like powers that he uses to throw randomers around and to bust Prospero some more. The ending is so anticlimactic. There is no big epic fight with Caliban at all, and it's so messy with what does happen. And it feels like they repeat the same story beat twice. This could easily have been combined with Trancers 4 into one much better film, but they clearly wanted to milk this series for all it's worth. And they even went on to make a 6th one of these after this in 2002, and from just looking at the trailer for that, I've decided not to go near it. Sure, it doesn't even star Jack Deth. Trancers 5 is easily the worst of the Trancers films that I've seen. It's just kind of boring and barely has anything going on in it. It clearly was just made back to back with part 4 so they could make more money by releasing 2 films. And it's sad to see Jack go out on this entry. So I give Trancers 5 Sudden Death 1 out of 5 Horshes. The Trancers series really took a hit with this 2-parter, and I'm not going to go near the 6th one like I said, so this is where our trips down the line come to an end. But let me know what you thought of Trancers 5 Sudden Death in the comments below, and the Trancers series as a whole, and I'll see you next time when we horsh into another movie film.